Good evening everyone and welcome to my fully interactive Facebook and YouTube interview with my expert guest speaker. This evening it gives me great pleasure to be hosting Del Cotton from Hireaband and EventAce. We'll be talking with Del in just a few moments time. We'll be talking all things wedding music entertainment. We'll be talking all things wedding supplier sourcing today as well. Del represents two organisations and he will do a full introduction in just a few moments time. Dale is a very well seasoned expert in the industry, so I can't wait to introduce Dale to you guys this evening and for him to share all his advice, expertise, all of his experience. There's so much he would like to talk to you about this evening, and he's given us his time to really help you along this very exciting wedding planning journey. Now, for those of you who are joining us live, I want to give everyone enough time to click in. I appreciate it takes a couple of minutes for everyone to get the notifications and join us live. So I'm just going to go through a few housekeeping rules and then we'll jump into the official interview. So, we're going live across 3 platforms. We are currently live in my Facebook page, The Wedding Guru Oscar. We're also live in my private bridal group, the Interactive Facebook Lives with The Wedding Guru Oscar, and also live in my YouTube channel. Now, for that reason, I'm having to use a third-party streaming software, which is called the StreamYard. Now, for those of you who are joining us live in my bridal group right now, you might see this little notification you can see on the screen just now, either at the bottom or the top of your screen, dependent on the device you're joining us on just now. And it says, I'm going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at streamyard.com/Facebook. All you need to do is hit that little link there and I'll give StreamYard the permission. If you prefer not to do that or don't know how to do it, that's no problem at all. Please just make sure that you pop your names before any comments or questions. That way Del and I can address you by name as we answer your questions today as well. Now, for those of you who are joining us on repeat, who can join us live today, that session will be recorded and available across all these 3 platforms to watch after we finished for today. But please make sure you hashtag comment, hashtag repeat in the comment boxes below, and that way if there's any follow-up questions or comments from yourselves, again, I can always tag Del to answer those questions for you, and we can put you in touch with Del and his team as well. Because we're going live across these 3 platforms, so we highly encourage comments and questions from yourselves. Del is given his evening for us to share his advice and expertise with us as well. So I highly encourage you guys to get engaged, get involved. The more questions, the more comments we've got from yourselves, the more helpful and interactive we can make this session for you as well. So let's get started. Please say hello, tell us your name, tell us where you're joining us from in the comment boxes below. If you've got any questions already, pop them in the comment boxes below. If you would rather not say anything, just give us a little love heart. We would love to hear from you this evening as well. Now, at the end of the session, I've got a little freebie to give away for yourselves as well. Bear with us, you will need to stay right to the end to get that little freebie guide that will be available at the end of the session. But I'll come back to that one in just a few moments time. I'm just checking in with your comments. We've got a few comments popping in. Brilliant. Looking forward to asking Del my usual lot of questions. Hi Del, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining. We've got looking forward to hearing your hints and tips today as well. Fantastic. So, for those of you who have joined us live today, we are hosting Del from Hireaband and EventAce. Del will tell us a little bit more about that in just a moment, but as I said at the start of the interview, Del is a well-seasoned industry expert and he's got tons of things to talk to you about today as well. So, what you can expect from our interview today is a little introduction in a few moments' time. We will then dive right into the official interview and then we'll finish the session with the open Q&A. But don't worry, we highly encourage questions throughout the interview. The open Q&A is reserved for what I call the golden nugget questions. So if you've got any very special questions for Del, you can leave them right to the end of the session, but we can always ask questions throughout the interview. And like I said, Del has given us his time, so let's make the most of it, and I'm sure he would love to help you with your plans as well. Now, for those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Oscar. I'm the wedding guru Oscar. I started my professional wedding planning business back in 2019. Before that, I've been involved in the wedding industry since 2009. Initially running, delivering weddings on the day, logistically being there and making sure that your guests were looked after, the couples were looked after, and things have happened to plan. After that, I've looked after over 130 weddings at 3 city luxury venues in Edinburgh, and that's when I really got into the nitty-gritty side of wedding planning, from the moment of inquiry, all the consultations, menu tastings, final details appointments, on the day coordination. That was my job, to make sure things happened to plan as well. Now, it was during that time I was very honoured and fortunate to have been recognised by my wedding planning couples with 3 Scottish Vows Awards and the Scottish Hotel Award, most recently the Outstanding Award from the Wedding Emporium 2021 as well. Over the years, I've contributed some of the biggest publications in the wedding world, most recently more local publications with Engaging Magazine from Stark Agency, Your Scottish Wedding, Luxury Scottish Wedding, and My Scotland Wedding as well. If you're looking for inspiration, I highly encourage you guys to check these sites as well. Now, enough about me. We're here to meet our expert guest speaker, so it gives me great pleasure to be bringing our expert guest speaker, Del, up to the forefront screen. Now, Del, thank you very much for joining us this evening. You are, as I said, very well seasoned expert in the industry, and it gives me great pleasure to have you with us this evening. Before we get started, would you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit more about your 2 fantastic businesses?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Oscar. It's nice to be here. As Oscar said, I'm well seasoned. That's just polite speak for ancient. For a while, we started Hireaband back in 1999. It's an entertainment agency. Originally started in Scotland, having offices in England now too. So Hireaband, we look after wedding bands and tribute acts, DJs, anything that shows off, makes a noise, makes music. The only thing we don't represent in the entertainment industry are dancers, simply because I can't dance. I have no idea what's involved. But I was a wedding musician for a long time, and that's where Hireaband came from. So since 1999, we've been matching couples with bands, with all kinds of entertainment, all over Scotland, and then over the last, I think, 7 or 8 years in England as well. So the business has grown down into England. We have a big London office now too. The other business is EventAce.com, which we had the idea about just before COVID hit. So our timing was particularly bad. But in a way, the idea behind EventAce is to try and level the playing field for event suppliers, and to give people who are organising their events, whether it's a wedding or whether it's a corporate event or a private party or whatever, is to give people access to suppliers they may not normally find. Usually when you are looking for a supplier, you'll find the first people on the first page of Google who've got the biggest advertising budget, or they've been around for the longest time. And it's very difficult for new suppliers or smaller suppliers to compete, basically. So what EventAce does is it turns the tables a little bit, and I use the phrase quite a lot, democratises weddings and events. So it levels the playing ground in that when you come to the platform, rather than having to surf through lots and lots of different suppliers and then getting in touch with them and finding that the ones you like perhaps are already busy or would travel to your area, EventAce means that you post your requirements one time. If you're planning a wedding, we're talking about weddings tonight. If you're planning a wedding, you post the details you're looking for, whatever the things, your venue, a band, a caterer, limousines, hair and makeup. You let our community know what you're after, and then the community are notified about your inquiry, and all of those suppliers who are available on your date and who will travel to your event venue, or who provide you with a venue, will then get in touch with you, either through the system, basically, which is you can be messaged, whatever way you want to be contacted, whether it's email, phone, or using the internal messaging system that we have on EventAce.com. And you simply find the suppliers you like the look of best and work with them. So we've likened it quite a bit to a comparison website, but rather than for insurance, it's for event suppliers. So it speeds the whole process up. And that's EventAce. So we started EventAce just last year, beginning of last year. And of course, with COVID coming along and events being stopped, basically, that meant we had a big problem. But we used that time to refine the business. I'm a fiddler. I'm constantly messing around with things, but we have. It's been put to me that it's time to stop mucking around. So we have got a finished product here now that we're really pleased with. There are a few more changes being released on Monday, and then the platform's there for anybody to use if they're looking for any kind of event supplier. And if you are an event supplier, it's completely free to sign up, create a profile, and there's no commission. So the advantage that you have as a wedding organizer, someone who's planning their wedding, is you're paying the price that's been the best price possible, basically, and you can choose which suppliers you're going to work with. So that's the EventAce story in a nutshell, and that's my background. I've been in bands for years, and that's where Hireaband came from. So I must have been at more weddings than Liz Taylor, and I've played in every big venue you could possibly imagine, from castles to civic centres, and I've performed in bands for years and years and years. Not any longer, due to a petition to stop me singing. But it gives me an insight into what's actually involved in a wedding and an event. Obviously, you see everything from the back end and all the preparation that goes into it. So that's me. That's the last 56 years summed up for you.
Wow, that's absolutely fantastic. It's quite a history, because obviously this is quite inspiring in a way, because you've come through the kind of every stage of the career to get to the point of having hired a band and now starting EventAce to kind of understand the consumer journey, the couple's journey to booking and corporate business, I suppose, as well. But it's actually really quite interesting with EventAce, because I remember when I was first introduced by Dawn Stafford to EventAce, and we had a conversation. She said, "Do you know, it's very simple to sign up." And I was like, "Oh, right, okay, let's give it a go." Actually, 2 minutes and I had the profile done. It was so simple, so user-friendly for a back-end supplier to use it. I can just only imagine how easy it is for couples to use. And Del, is it completely free of charge for couples and organisers to use?
Absolutely, completely free of charge, and always will be. You'll never pay to post any requirements on the platform. And because we don't charge commission, as I said earlier, you're getting the direct price. Whichever price you can negotiate with your supplier, that's entirely up to you. We're here to we're like a matchmaking service almost. We're here to bring the two together. And if you're looking for one kind of supplier or all the suppliers for your wedding, you'll find them all pretty much on the platform now. We're very young. We've got well over 200 suppliers now of all different varieties. There are a few we don't have yet, and if you're looking for something specific and we don't have a supplier of that kind, there's the ability to tell us from within the platform, and we will go and use my old contacts and the contacts of my entire team here, and we'll find your supplier and put you in touch. And after that, it's up to you. You can compare all the different quotes you've had. Not just the quotes, not just price, obviously, that's important. You can tell a lot from the way people respond, how quickly they respond. You can tell a lot. And you can also read reviews as we get busier and busier. You can review any supplier that you've used. Good or bad reviews, they're all going to be published on the platform. And then you can make your mind up. If you get a quote in from someone and you like the sound of them and the price is reasonable, go ahead and do the business. And do it with our best wishes, because you'll have found perhaps a supplier that you would never have found before, simply because they're new or smaller or just can't get onto the front page. Google's constantly changing the rules. So they may not have the money to spend a fortune on advertising, but that might make, they're usually very keen to grow their businesses. Some great deals to be had with some fantastic suppliers.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Couples that are watching us today, I think this is very important for couples, because quite often that's where they're coming to people like myself that, looking for recommendations, looking for advice and stuff like that. And I can do that job. But if there's couples that are watching us and doing a lot of the wedding planning themselves, you can find a better place just to, send your requirements and get a load of information that makes your decision making a lot more informative as well. So that's brilliant. Great. We're just going to check back with our audience. There's a couple of comments and questions. We've got Janet Anand, harpist from Edinburgh, joining us today. Good to see you, Janet, thank you for joining. She's saying EventAce is a great initiative. Thank you, Del, for setting this up. I think that's the agreement across the industry from all of us, that it's been so well received and so user friendly to use as well. Now we've got the first question. I'm just going to bring it up on the screen. So the question is, our venue offers a fully integrated PA system. Is this useful for bands or not?
The honest answer is they prefer not to use the system that's already in the venue, basically because they'll have spent a large amount of money buying their own system, which they will know inside out. You get used to it. It's like a tool. The PA system to a band are like an instrument, basically. So most bands prefer to use their own equipment. Some venues insist that their equipment's used, and most bands are flexible and will accommodate that request. But generally speaking, to get the best from your band, you're better to let them use their own equipment if that's possible. But you know, bands are flexible enough, and they understand that venues sometimes have sound restrictors or things. So using the equipment generally isn't a big issue. So that's the answer to that one.
Brilliant, fantastic, great. Thank you very much for that answer, and thank you very much for the question as well. Not sure who was asking, but if you'd like to find out a bit more, just pop that in the DMs and we'll come back to you. Now, we've talked about, obviously, the two fantastic businesses you've got there, Dale, about your background in the industry as well. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more, as a director of two very successful businesses, what's your average day like?
At the moment, it's not typical because obviously we still have COVID. I spend a lot of time just trying to keep up to date with the latest rules and regulations that are published. They change almost on a daily basis. They're contradictory quite often, so it takes a lot of time to try and figure out what's current, what's actually the law, what are recommendations, what can the bands do. So at the moment it's really strange, and I think most wedding suppliers, most people in the wedding industry will be experiencing exactly the same thing. Pre-COVID, I've got a great team here, so I'll tell you about an average day pre-COVID, and that is what we're hoping we'll be returning to very, very quickly. The team here tried to keep me away as much as possible from interacting with clients because I talk a lot, as you're going to find out. And so there's a really useful team here. My job really is to steer the businesses in the direction that we want them to go. But I'm still quite heavily involved, because I'm an old muso myself. I'm still quite heavily involved in the acquisition of new entertainers for Hireaband. So they keep me in the loop here. My older daughter Rachel works at Hireaband too. We're a family business. My wife is the real boss, Lisa. But Rachel is the first point of contact for new entertainers, and that's my favourite part. Really, is trying to find and discover new talent. So my day can be very varied. It can be very, very boring. You're doing accounts, you're doing the VAT returns, you're doing the monthly accounts and things like that. But the day-to-day business is really run by my superb team here. Gay Young, who is the office manager, and she's probably the person, if anybody's been dealing or interacting with Hireaband recently, it will have been probably via Gay or via Lisa and their teams. So yeah, I'm in a very fortunate position. I've been able to rely on those guys to do all the real hard work, and I try. EventAce is taking up more and more of my time now, and a day there is dealing with our developers, because, as I said earlier, we're always trying to improve the platform. We've had a bit of time to do that, to talk to our suppliers, to find new suppliers, to explain the business to event organisers, people who are planning weddings or big or small events. So there's no 2 days exactly the same. Sometimes I'm writing copy for the platforms, various the websites. I write blogs a lot. So that a day in the life at Hireaband and at EventAce, no 2 days are the same. we're fighting a lot of fires just now, as I think anybody is, particularly at Hireaband, because normally, under normal circumstances, this weekend, when we're coming in the peak wedding season in June, we would normally have 70 to 90 band shows out over the weekend just for weddings, and there will be other things as well. This weekend there are 7 full bands out, only 7 bands out. It's heartbreaking, and those guys are under so many restrictions, so many mitigations. But these are guys who the respect I have for the musicians I work for is it knows no bounds. These are people who for the last 16 months have had no income. And yet they're still ready to step up when the time comes and people need them to go and perform at their weddings. They're still ready. They're still rehearsing when they can, when they can now get together, and they're still going out there to make people's big days all they can be. So yeah, it's a weird one, a day in my office, but it's interesting.
Would you say a lot of the entertainers now are kind of roaring their engines just to get restarted? But there is a good news coming on Monday. Is it the past Monday or this coming Monday?
28th of June. The rules are changing slightly. So to actually quote directly from the government document, focused live entertainment can take place, but guests must remain seated. I think the way around that is to watch your football, watch the Euros, and you can have all the dancing you like and all this and all the drinking and whatnot. But yeah, at the moment, from Monday anyway, focused live entertainment. That means that entertainment at normal volume can take place. So your band can at last get themselves perform to the best of their ability. That happens 28th of June, and then 19th of July you can dance outside. At the moment you can't dance. From the 19th of July, physical distancing apparently is reduced to 1 metre. So indoors there's 1 metre physical distancing. Still makes dancing, I would have said, pretty difficult, particularly if you're having a ceilidh, it makes it impossible. But that's where we're at. The irony of watching all the events that are happening throughout the country isn't lost on me or any of the musicians, or indeed any of the couples who are hoping to have a normal wedding, but can't. So I think 9th of August is the penciled in date at the moment for when all restrictions are lifted. And that's when dancing indoors should be able to happen. What I would say, the one caveat is there's been fantastic work done by the Scottish Wedding Industry Alliance and a number of other pressure groups. In fact, I've got a meeting with 4 MSPs after a Zoom call with them after this interview, actually, Oscar. And there's constant pressure being put on the government to answer questions that they aren't answering at the moment. What is the data? How many people? How safe is it to have these events? We're not being told, but the things that have changed only because of pressure from bodies like the SWIA, who have, as I said, done a fantastic job of asking, putting pressure on the government, letting them see how important to the economy the wedding industry is. There are so many jobs dependent on this. So many people have had their livelihoods just, in our situation, for instance, essentially what our musicians do is illegal, or was illegal up until about very recently. So their jobs suddenly became illegal. You can't be in a band and perform at a wedding. So things are changing. They seem to be speeding up. We are hopeful, and we're just really praying that by the 9th of August things are completely freed up. But we've lost another summer. There are couples who have been with us over 4 or 5, sometimes I think 6 rescheduled bookings. Poor people are just getting, it's like a pinball machine, they're just getting knocked from pillar to post. And the information we have, even now, isn't completely clear. There's still grey areas. It's all open to interpretation.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, good to, the positive here is that, we're having all these conversations, you speaking to the MSPs, the Scottish Wedding Industry Alliance, the protest that was at the Scottish Parliament on Monday. We're making baby steps, you could say, but hopefully that's now on the right track in the right direction as well. So fingers crossed, and hopefully we can have all the entertainment we want by 9th of August
Let's hope so.
at the latest, I would hope, but let's wait and see what happens next. Brilliant. And I really appreciate you sharing that with our capos, because it is quite of a importance to a lot of capos to understand where the entertainment stands. So that's brilliant coming from a source like yourself. You are our expert, and so great to have you sharing that with us today. Now I'm just going to check back with our audience. For those of you guys who have just joined us, because I've seen a few new faces popping in on the count just now, we are going live in Facebook and YouTube channel. We are speaking with Dale from EventAce and Hireaband. We'll talk in all things wedding supplier sourcing and wedding music entertainment as well today. So if you've got any questions, anything you would like Dale to cover today, pop your questions in the comment boxes below, and this is your time to get the insights from the expert himself as well. Now, checking back with our audience questions, not sure if you'd have, suppose you've got musical background. What's been your most unusual request? This question comes up quite a lot of the time for our suppliers.
From a point, well, there's a few. Okay, so if we look at Hireaband, it's amazing what you get asked for if people are looking for musical entertainment. We've done all. I remember one time we had a client ask us for what's the girl's name that was in that film Pulp Fiction? There was a character in that movie.
I'm really bad with names.
You'll all know who I mean. Yeah. So somebody wanted one of our singers to dress up as that particular artist and go and sing a song for someone. So you get things like that. We get asked for we get asked quite a lot, especially in October, for oompa bands and things like that. They're very popular. The military love them, and they're very hard to get. It's like getting a Cayley band for Hogmanay or for Burns Night. These are the times when these resources are really, really sparse. So there are things I can't actually tell you that I've been asked for when I was gigging in the past myself. It's probably a family show, so I won't go into that. But with EventAce, the one thing actually that we've been asked for and that we don't have as a supplier, and if there's any suppliers out there who provide this, I'd love to hear from you. Portaloos, the portable posh toilets that you can get.
Yeah.
We've been asked a couple of times. There's been a couple of jobs posted for the suppliers. We don't have any, and I don't know why. And I don't know why it's so important to me, but it would just be great to have a Portaloo supplier. So if you're out there and
a shout out for the suppliers, indeed.
I don't suppose that's particularly unusual, and it won't really please me saying it's an unusual request, but it's the most
common.
Yeah, the most unusual request we've had so far at EventAce. But yeah, all kinds of things. Yeah, and I could talk all night about being in bands and the things you're asked to play and the issues that you have sometimes with the songs that you don't play or the songs that you do play. This is Scotland. You can get in. You have to know what songs you can play in what areas. You can inadvertently annoy people. I remember once playing a Proclaimers tune at a Hearts fans wedding, and that didn't go down well. And in the west of Scotland, where I'm from, you can imagine it can get a lot worse. So you've got to be very careful.
100%. That is interesting. Wow, there's quite a few stories there already, but I can totally relate on the music front. You can. Who was I speaking with recently? It was the same sort of thing. It's kind of being careful. It was actually Elliot Bibby, and we were talking about magic kind of tricks and stuff like that. And he quite often likes to pull the kind of football references and stuff like that. That's why he now asks in advance who they support, who they don't, because you can
it can be an issue. It's not as bad as it used to be, but I've been doing this a long time, and I remember. So I could tell you stories that would cut your hair.
Brilliant, fantastic, great. Thank you very much for that. Now, you've been involved in the wedding industry, events industry for so long, entertainment as well, and you've got two fantastic businesses there. I wonder, what's the most rewarding element of what you do or what you've done over the years?
I think I touched on it a little bit earlier. When it comes to Hireaband, our more established business, finding new talent is my favourite thing to do. I love musicians. I've spent my life around musicians and in bands, and the talent that's out there, Oscar, is stunning. a bizarre thing happens actually quite a lot. So often we're doing big corporate events in Scotland, and you'll find clients are very keen to organise entertainment from London. You think London is the place to find the best musicians. It's a complete and utter waste of money, because in this country, right here in Scotland, we've got some of the best musicians in the whole of the United Kingdom, and that means actually in the world. And I'm not talking about the stars who are, making records and stuff. There are guys here who I'm in awe of, that are performing in wedding bands. That you can book right now, and you can get for under 1,500 quid or 1,600 quid, and you're getting bands of an enormously high standard. So whenever we come across, I especially like to find a diamond in the rough. They won't mind me talking about them here, but there's a band called Sneaky Treacle, who are probably the busiest wedding band in Scotland, and for good reason. They're just phenomenal, terrific musicians, lovely, lovely people. But when we first saw them, when they first came to us to look for representation, they looked terrifying. One of my friends, a good friend of mine, Tommy Moonen in the band, and if he's watching this, Tommy, you know what I'm going to say. The photographs we had, Tommy looked as if he was going to beat you up. And I thought, then I heard them and I realised how good they were. I knew they could play. They just needed a little bit of tweaking around the presentation a little bit. Tommy's background was in rock bands and heavy bands and stuff like that. But a sweeter guy you couldn't meet. And now, over the years, they're a Vows award-winning band, stunningly talented. And finding them and helping them to achieve the level of bookings that they achieve or have achieved is just great. I'm always excited when I hear a good new band. The whole office knows, and I always get into trouble because we've got big speakers here, and when we get new demos and stuff. Obviously, the last wee while has been really difficult, but I always get out to see bands. I'm never away from Berkeley 2, which is a big rehearsal facility in Glasgow. And I'll travel far and wide to find good new bands. The Scoundrels were a great find, a band with an Irish tinge, just great guys. But when we met them in really unsalubrious surroundings, so you have to be able to, it's like looking at a new house, you have to be able to take away all the decor and think, what's the real bones here? That's a thing I love to do. Laterally with EventAce, it's been just fantastic fun looking at other aspects of the wedding industry and the events industry. I've always just been focused on music and musical entertainment, but seeing the enormous range of suppliers that are out there, again, is just great fun, and you see what people are putting into their businesses. You're dealing with really passionate people who have, I'd like to say again, suffered enormous deprivation in the last 16 months. But it's just great to see new companies coming to EventAce, creating a profile. I'm always excited when a new business joins us, finding out a little bit about them. I like to think that I know an awful lot about live performance from a musical point of view, and you always think your shift's the hardest. You always think, nobody works harder at a wedding than a band. You're there for hours, you're leaving early doors, you're still there an hour after everyone's left, you're stripping all the stuff down. But when you get to talk to other suppliers and you see the pressures they're under and the enormous responsibility that's on their shoulders, you get to really appreciate the quality of the people in this industry. And we are clients, people getting married in this country are spoiled for choice. And people who are having that's why Scotland's the event destination it is. Mainly, we've got fabulous scenery, we've got gorgeous venues, we've got castles, we've got country houses, but we've got the best people, I think. And don't forget, we with the greatest respect to our colleagues in our English office, there's just something special about the people up here, the musicians, the suppliers. They do all help each other out. There's a great feeling of community. And in fact, EventAce, we're always talking about it as being a community. You know what I'm talking about, Oscar. We all know each other to a greater or lesser degree. And it's nice to see the support we've given each other over this unprecedented challenge that we've all had.
100%. It's been interesting to kind of observe how this industry's come together. We never used to have a representing body as the Scottish Wedding Industry Alliance, and what a fantastic initiative that's been, and hopefully it carries forward into the future, because it's been such a helpful place to get together and discuss what bothers everyone and what bothers our couples as well. So 100% with you on that one. Brilliant. I'm just going to check for questions with our audience. There was a question that's just popped up here. It's a question related to Hireaband. What's the process of hiring a band with Hireaband?
Couldn't be easier. You just pop onto the Hireaband website, hireaband.co.uk. You can select your date and the area that your wedding's taking place in, and the platform will then show you all the available bands that will play in that area, or that are from that area, and that are available on your date. You fill in a quick form, tell us about your venue, various other wee questions, who you are, obviously. And I would really encourage folk to do this. Not enough people do this on the website. You don't have to contact us umpteen times for each individual band. Just create a favourites list, and then one quick form filled in lets us know all the bands you're interested in. We get an email, you get a confirmation email to say those are the bands you're looking at, these are the ones that are available. And then one of our team will get in touch with either via email or a phone call to answer any other questions that you might have. You pay a reservation fee to secure the date for your band. You've got the band booked. That's it. You'll send out contracts electronically. The band gets exactly the same contract, and that way you know that you're booking secure. All the details that you need to have are done in black and white for both parties, so you know where, when, what time, all of those things. It's really, really straightforward. If you already know the band you're interested in, there's a little box on the home page of Hireaband. Just type the band's name in, it'll take you straight to their page. It's worth saying that all the vast majority of bands on the Hireaband website, certainly in Scotland, are exclusive to our clients. They can only be booked via ourselves. That's an arrangement we've come to with the bands, and we help the bands with their promo and their marketing and things in return. And we look after the diary so that you don't have any issues with the double bookings and stuff like that. So that's the process for Hireaband. Just couldn't be easier.
Just in one place for all the communication there, which is absolutely fantastic.
Exactly.
That's exactly. Brilliant. There is more questions, but I'm going to ask a question that I've organised for you, and I'm just going to paraphrase it a little bit, because obviously couples can reach out to the team and speak with yourselves, but I suppose there's two parts to it. So the question is about what should couples discuss at the first meeting. So EventAce, is there a particular level of information you would recommend couples consider to put into their inquiry form?
It takes about 2 or 3 minutes just to fill in the form, and that's it. So that puts you in touch with all the suppliers you could possibly need. So in EventAce, we've tried to make the questions we've written as few questions as we possibly can, but we still need to be able to give our suppliers enough information in order for them to decide, is that a job I'm interested in? Could I pitch for that job? So obviously we ask for your contact details towards the end of the form, but the main thing we ask is, what service are you looking for? What's the date of your event? And we're talking about weddings tonight. If you have a venue already, where is the venue? And then there's a bit of just an opportunity to give us some background on as much or as little as you want to give us. That's basically it. So 3 minutes. And you can pick all the services you could possibly need. And one thing we're finding is people are sometimes finding services they didn't know existed. So that's been a bit fun as well to see what people are looking for. But yeah, we won't bother you with constant contact or anything like that. You can determine how many suppliers you want to hear from. You can tell us the cut-off date to hear from suppliers. So, for instance, if your event it's an emergency, say, and you've had a supplier pull out for this weekend, you can put that up there on the platform, and you can say that there's a deadline for responses. You can set that deadline. After that deadline date has come, you won't hear from anyone else on the platform, and that means you're not having your inbox bombarded with hundreds and hundreds of different suppliers all looking for your business. So you can give as much or as little information as you can, but the basics are the event date, what you're after, what kind of thing you're looking for, and the location of the event. The rest is something that you can discuss quite clearly with the suppliers who respond to you.
Fantastic. We've got a question from Don, who's joined us today. Thank you very much for joining us, Don. Good to have you. You are an industry fan and expert as well. But Don is asking, with all your experience, do you see any short-term or lasting effects from COVID on weddings? Budget, guest numbers, entertainment choices. EventAce rocks, by the way.
Thanks, Don. Yeah, I think there will inevitably be an impact. I think people have to bear in mind that so many weddings have been moved from last year to this year and next year that availability is going to be a challenge for the best, the most popular suppliers. Certainly, we've seen that with bands in our roster. People are having to book wedding nights for Wednesdays, Thursdays, unusual days of the week because all the Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays are they're going fast. So there'll be less choice because there are fewer available suppliers. That's going to be a challenge. When it comes to guest numbers, I think we're a pretty resilient bunch, and I think that as soon as it's possible, we're going to have as many people as we can possibly get to our events and our weddings. I think after that, you can only really liken COVID or what's happened with COVID to something like a war when there's been a war. That's how big an impact it's had in the nation and the people in the country. And after every time there's been a big national emergency, there's a kind of release, if you like. And I think that things are going to get more extravagant. People are going to, I think, really push the boat out. Some people haven't had a holiday for a couple of years, so there may be an impact on budgets, and actually budgets may be greater than normal. Mm-hmm. But on the other side, I think that people are also going to realise that there's the important thing at a wedding isn't all the stuff. It's not having the swankiest venue, the poshest cars, or the most expensive dresses. The people that you have there to help you celebrate the most important day of your life. And I think if there's probably going to be a realisation or an acceptance that perhaps all the stuff that you can have, great as it is, maybe is less important than the actual. Maybe people will give more thought to the sentiment. There's going to be, sadly, an awful lot of weddings where there'll be absent friends, people that should have been there that aren't there. There's bound to be a lot of people watching tonight that are in that position. It's incredibly sad. But I think that we're a resilient bunch, and I think that within my own prediction is a year to 18 months, and things will be indiscernible from the way they were before COVID when it comes to the wedding industry. I think it'll just go back, maybe bigger and better than it was before. We have to celebrate these things. These are too important to not focus on. We have to celebrate the great things in our lives and the great relationships. And what's a bigger celebration than a wedding? So I think that the industry will be poised to help. There's sadly casualties. There are companies no longer trading simply because they have been forced out of business. So I'd say that a year to a year and a half before things are indiscernible from the way they were before. And I think there could be a real boom as soon as the fetters are off of us, and as soon as the powers that be let us be human, then we'll take full advantage, particularly in Scotland. We know how to party in Scotland, and we'll make sure we'll be back with a vengeance.
Amazing. This is a positive thing that I was looking for. This is fantastic. I like to kind of see a bit of a timeline, and I think it gives everyone a bit of a perspective as well. But that's great news. Thank you very much for sharing that with us today. Now, guys, we're going to be moving on to our very final question from myself. There will be an open Q&A, an open floor for Q&A in just a few moments' time. If you've got any big questions, like I called them at the start of the interview, the golden nugget questions, this is your time to pop them in the comment boxes below, and we'll check back in with you in just a few moments' time. Now, the final question from me for you, Del, is what's your biggest one piece of advice for our wedding planning couples?
Okay, I'm going to give you two. I'm going to give you one from the perspective purely of booking entertainment. It's a mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to booking a band in particular. Don't book a band that you feel is a reflection of your own style. You don't make a statement with your band. It's a big mistake. What you have to remember at weddings is that your audience is 8 to 80, and there's no point being too cool for school. Not that we don't have the coolest wedding bands out there, but of course there has to be a bit of something for everyone. So when you're booking a band, think about your granny and think about your the grandkids as well. You have to think that when you're booking your band, they are there to entertain give something to everybody. So don't go down the niche road. It's not that common, but it does happen where couples think, right, we're really into jazz or we're really into, you know, I don't know, what is it, various niche kinds of music. It's always a mistake to do that. So find a band with as wide a range as possible. Obviously, that's to your taste. Look at the playlists, the kind of music that they would play. But don't just judge a band on the songs that are written on a list on the Hireaband website, because they're always adding new tunes. So talk to us. We'll put you in touch with the band and have a conversation with them. So don't try and make a statement with your band. Unless you know that everybody in the room is a jazz lover, then hire a big band and have a great time and swing all night long. You'll have a fantastic time. But remember that a band has to be able to accommodate and take care of everybody. The second thing I would say is, touching on what I said earlier, don't hang around to find your favourite supplier. The best are going to be really, really busy. I was in that conversation we were having just before we went live, Oscar had mentioned to you, Hireaband alone, we have rescheduled 5,000 weddings. 5,000 weddings. Not all individual weddings. Some of those weddings are for the one couple who've had 4, 5 or 6 reschedules. But for the last 16 months, all we've done is reschedule weddings. So that means that the bands like Sneaky Treacle, like Carlisle, you know, like the Dawn Patrol, Chat Society, fantastic bands, they're very, very busy, and getting them is going to be hard. Now that same thing applies to any supplier. You know, there's a finite number of suppliers, and we're essentially looking at 2 years worth of weddings squashed into one season. So don't hang around. Get as many quotes as you can, and what I would say is EventAce will save you so much frustration, because there's nothing worse than seeing you've crawled through Google, you've been on Facebook, you've had recommendations, you get in touch with that supplier and they're just not available. That's going to be a big, big issue this season. So EventAce, you'll only get responses from suppliers that are actually available. It'll save you so much time and hassle. And then after that, you know, book your favourite and have the best time. And bear in mind, you know, there's an awful lot of pent-up partying to do, so people are going to want to have a great time. So don't hang around.
Brilliant. Really appreciate that, and I agree with both. Absolutely, 100%. It is so important. Now, we're going to check back with your questions, guys. So let me just make sure. Oh, there's a video here. And we'll play it in the background as I'm bringing up the questions for us. Right, let's see what we've got here. Oh, technical difficulties with the video. I'll start playing, I promise, in just a few moments' time. It's the video that you've supplied, so hopefully I'll get it to work. If not, I'll bring it up to the screen. We had a question from the audience here. Trying to organise timings for our wedding, what's the average set time for a band?
Okay, good question. Most bands will play between 8 and 12. Some bands will extend beyond that time. Not always the best idea, but you can always ask. If a band are starting at 8, then they'll arrive usually on site for 7. It takes about an hour to get a band set up. A lot will depend on how far progressed your wedding is. If it's running late, then the band can't set up any quicker. So they'll still need about an hour to get themselves ready. Some bands can do it in a lot less time, some take a little bit more time. Generally speaking, access has a big impact on that. One top tip here is, when you're speaking to your venue, let them find out, or let them know that you're having a band, and make sure that they are aware that a band has to get its van or their vehicles as close to the performance area as they possibly can. They need free access to get in and out. So the quicker that can be done, the easier the access for a band, the faster they can get their gear in. Most PA and equipment for a band weighs a good ton. I mean, really an actual ton. So it takes a lot of guys and a lot of girls sweating hard to get the stuff in. They then have to set it all up, sound check, then go and get changed and come back out and be ready to play. So 8 till 12, usually with a half-hour break. That normally happens during the buffet in Scotland. And a band will put on background music usually for you, so at lower volume, so that you can still have a chat and whatnot. And then they'll come back on. And another top tip is, and a wee plea from the bands, if you could arrange for them to have a little bite of the buffet that's always very much appreciated. A well-fed band is a happy band.
Happy band.
So if you can, that'd be nice. But those are the times, 8 till 12, half-hour break.
Brilliant, fantastic, great. We've got a question. Kaylee, a yay or nay?
Oh, it depends on you, depends on your guests. Nothing will break the ice in a room better than a bit of Kaylee. If you're really into it and your friends are too, then a Kaylee all night, just if you're in Scotland, this is the way to do it. Most bands will do a Kaylee set, will have a little bit of a Kaylee set, and that's a really good thing, especially if you've got guests coming from overseas. It's just nice for them to see how we go about partying. So a half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour, most bands will do that, and then they'll spend the rest of the night doing normal pop rock and soul covers and things like that. But if you're going full Kaylee, you're blessed in Scotland. We've got the best Kaylee bands in the world, obviously. So I would say yes. All night would be too much for me personally, but I would certainly want to make sure that my overseas guests or my English guests had a little bit of a flavour of Scotland. So I'd have a little bit of Kaylee. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah. I agree. I think Kaylee is definitely a good party starter. Gets everyone onto the dance floor. There is such thing as an overkill of Kaylee as well, so I do agree that all night might not always be the best choice for everyone, but having a little bit of that is always quite fun as well. So
you need a lot of stamina for a full night of Kaylee. That's a fact.
Yes, for sure. The another question we've got: what's the most popular music entertainment genre currently?
Pop music always wins. The current pop music always wins. It's what people listen to in their own time, so it's the tunes they recognise. So you're a band doing a good wide range of music. I remember when I started, it was a lot of 60s stuff was still popular, but that's how old I am. I've been in bands since I was 19. I'm 56 now, so I'll let you do the maths. But back then, a lot of you've got to, as I said earlier, you need to take care of everybody at a wedding. Now the older stuff's considered, the 80s are quite popular, but you need a band that will do a big spread, and it's generally the best-selling pop tunes. There's no point in having a band playing really obscure songs that just keeps one tiny group of the wedding happy. Get a band that's exuberant, that plays up tunes, that plays songs one after the other, bangs through the tunes, keeps the dance floor busy, and plays the big pop hits. Now, a pop hit for someone who's 70 is going to be different from a pop hit for someone who's 7, but you get the point. A wide range of the most popular tunes. Always has been the most popular genre, and I think always will be.
I think one thing that guests remember from the wedding is if the dance floor was empty. So definitely finding somebody that can serve a spectrum of choice is very important. A
good band will always read the audience, and if they see that there's a particular part of the room that's not getting involved, if they're any good, and most are fantastic, they will just change. They'll maybe change the style a little bit and play something for maybe an older group at a table or a younger group or whatever. And you can always go and ask a band for requests, and if they know a tune, they'll play it. Most requests are sung at us. The most common one being Sweet Caroline. That's how it's always put to you. Sweet Caroline. But yeah, if go and ask a band if there's a song you want to hear, and if they know it, they'll play it for you.
Fantastic, brilliant. Now we've got another question for you, Del, as well. What are your tips for looking out when booking? What are the tips for looking out for when booking a band? I'm thinking anything to kind of watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to have a band that's been around for a little while, and that seems unfair to new bands, but most new bands serve their time in the pubs, the clubs and stuff, and then they'll come to some bands are built purposely for weddings, and they often come straight to an agency like ourselves. Don't worry too much about seeing a band live. It's very, very difficult, especially now it's not actually impossible. But you can trust videos these days. Watch the videos, listen to the band, read the reviews, and then really importantly, look at the set list. I said this earlier, on the Hireaband website, you can see all the tunes a band performs, and make sure that there's enough songs in there that you like and that you think are going to appeal to your guests. Watch out for very cheap bands. You always get what you pay for, and reliability is the most important thing. So if you have a band that is full of the best musicians in the world, but they don't turn up or they turn up late, you've got a big problem. So use a band with a good reputation, and if you can't, I'm obviously going to say this, but use a band with an agency behind them, because they'll have been tried and tested. An agency is never going to risk its reputation representing a poor band. So use a band with a good reputation. Issues happen. We're dealing with people here, and things can go wrong. Your agent will be able to help if that is the case, in 9 times out of 10. So I would say look for guys that have got proven experience if you possibly can. If it's a brand new band, you're likely to get a better deal, because they'll be hungry for bookings. So therefore, use an agent in that situation, and the agent will have done all the homework for you. They'll have done all the checking.
Diligence, yeah, definitely. I think that's a very important advice, because there's fantastic deals, but if you're going with somebody like yourselves, you would have done all the due diligence, checked them over, and made sure that you can recommend them. But just booking direct could be quite risky for sure. Great. Final question. This could be a contention bone there. Bone of contention. Who's your favourite band on the books at the minute? Not sure if you can tell us, but a good question.
I've managed through a long career in music to hang on to my front teeth, and I've no intention of losing them tonight by stating any particular band. I've got a particular favourite kind of music, but I wouldn't say that necessarily translates into the very best wedding bands that are out there. So I couldn't possibly. I would literally be lynched. There'd be a queue of musicians at the office door tomorrow morning. What I would say is, if you can't really go wrong with a good wedding band, they're not all the same. That's absolutely not the case. They've all got their own character. What you won't get, bands are like cars nowadays. It used to be back when I was a lad, all cars were rusty and unreliable. Now you can't really buy a bad car, and the same really applies to bands. There aren't really any rogues out there. They've been weeded out long ago. So your only decision is, do I like that band? Do I enjoy their music? Am I getting on well with them when I chat to them? And are they doing the songs that I think most of my guests will enjoy? It's really difficult to find a bad band now. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an agent. Even bands who represent themselves, there are no rotters around anymore. There are no fly-by-nights. They don't last long in this industry, and they're soon found out. So book the band that you enjoy best. Don't worry at all about who I like. I've got my favourites, obviously, but actually that changes. So book the one you like best, and you won't go wrong.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Del. Wonderful. Apologies about the video. I couldn't get it to work, so I'll post in the comment boxes below, but bear with us, and I will make sure that this is in the comment boxes. As we're wrapping things up for our interview today, I wanted to make sure that I share with you the guide, the freebie that I've organised for you earlier. The guide touches upon saving time and maximising your wedding budget. It talks about wedding suppliers as well. So I highly encourage you guys, whichever stage at wedding planning you're with just now, to check it out. For those of you that would like to download it, which is completely free of charge, the link is up on the screen just now, which is bit.ly/save-time-an-money-oscar. All you need to do is pop your email address there, and the guide will be free for you to take. Now, if you'd like to find out a little bit more how we could work together, I specialise in quite a spectrum of wedding planning services. I can focus on one-off consultations, very popular with DIY weddings or weddings in the final stages of wedding planning, where they want to have that really kind of a health check on their wedding planning as well. I can be available for on-the-day coordination. This is primarily popular with couples that have opted in for a dry hire venue or a venue with no wedding coordinator. Now, I would get involved in the final stages of wedding planning, liaising with suppliers, and being there as your right-hand man on the day as well. Or if you're busy working and you would like a bit more hands-on support, I can help you with anything from venue sourcing, supplier sourcing, negotiating, liaising, booking things in, and being there for you as well. So if you're interested, book a 15-minute free consultation today. The contact details will come up on the screen in a few moments' time. Before we finish for today, I want to introduce our next week's expert guest speaker. I've got Irina joining us from Cake Explosion. We'll be talking all things wedding favours, treats, cakes and little bits and bobs for the sweet tooth as well. That's Thursday the 1st of July at 6 p.m. We'll be talking to Irina, so pop that date in your diaries and we'll be speaking to her then. Now, as we're wrapping things up for today, I want to share with you guys contact details for both Hireaband, and that's available up on the screen just now. We've got the internet website link, the telephone number, email address and social media handles up on the screen just now. You can always pause after we finish today and take all the contact details. If you'd like to find out a little bit more about the venue, the supplier sourcing platform EventAce, the contact details are up on the screen just now, which is eventace.com, and social media handles and telephone number there for you as well. This applies to couples and suppliers who are watching us live today as well. Now, before we finish for today, Del, is there any final thing you would like to say to our wedding planning couples?
You've waited a long time, so enjoy it. Just have a great time. Oh, one thing I would say, again from my own experience, don't micromanage things. Don't sweat the small stuff. The best weddings I ever played at, and I've played at thousands, the best ones were always the ones where the couple were laid back enough to let themselves enjoy the day. We have a phrase amongst the musicians of clipboard brides. You don't want to be a clipboard bride. A clipboard bride has everything in a wee schedule, and she's so busy making sure everything works to the letter, and on the second that she forgets to take a step back and enjoy the day. So enjoy your day. Don't expect perfection. Perfection's rubbish. Some of the best things that can happen are when things just don't go quite to plan. And be easy with it. And it's over so quickly. This is the one thing that everybody says to me. Can't believe how quickly it's all over. Let the day run at its own pace, and if things are running a bit later, if your weather's a bit rubbish, or if there's a little issue, whatever they happen to be, don't let it ruin your whole day. Let it wash over you. And you've waited so long, don't ruin it by expecting perfection. It never happens. And some of the best weddings I've ever played at were when things went a little bit skew-whiff here and there. And if you can laugh along with it, you'll have the best time, and you'll look back and with nothing but fondness. So don't sweat the small stuff.
Fantastic. Really appreciate that. That's a great piece of advice. Now, massive thanks to you, Del, for sharing your advice, joining us today and being our fabulous expert guest speaker. Massive thanks to all of you who have joined us live today, asked all the questions. Fantastic engagement from everyone this evening. Now, all is left for me to say is massive thank you to you all. Have a great Thursday evening. And I will see you next Thursday with Irina at 6 p.m. That's the 1st of July. We're talking all things wedding cakes and favours. Have a great Thursday, everyone, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.